Soft strings drift like wind over marble halls. The night sky hums with stars, ancient and unbroken. Far above, Olympus glows with a quiet silver fire. In its heart rests a throne unlike any other, not forged by iron, not carved by mortal hands. It is a seat woven from wisdom, from light, from silence. Upon it sits Athena, goddess of clarity and reason. Beside her, the owl watches with eyes of midnight glass. Its wings hold the memory of skies older than time. Its call carries riddles across mountains and seas. They say the throne does not shine for glory or rule. It shines for seekers who dare to ask without fear. Heroes once climbed its steps, trembling with hope. Philosophers lingered at its side, searching for truth. Yet no sword nor crown could claim its grace. For this throne is eternal, born not of power, but vision. It waits beyond the veil of time, watching the ages. Every whisper of the owl is a path toward wisdom, and every pause of the heart is a step to the throne. Tonight, we walk together into its timeless light. The mountain stands high, crowned by drifting clouds of gold. Its peaks whisper with winds that carry voices of old. This is Olympus, home of the timeless gods and endless skies. Here, thunder once roared, and divine laughter filled the air. Yet in the quiet of dawn, another power is felt. It is not the blaze of Zeus nor the storm of Poseidon. It is the calm pulse of wisdom, soft yet unshakable. At the heart of this mountain lies a chamber of light. No walls hold it, for it is born of the heavens themselves. There, upon a rise of marble, rests a throne unique to all. It does not glitter with jewels, nor shine with polished gold. Its form glows as if carved from dawn and woven from silence. Legends call it the eternal owl throne of Athena. It is said the throne listens before it ever speaks. Its glow bends with the stars, its presence never fades. The air near it hums with a rhythm both strange and soothing. Visitors say it feels like standing inside a living thought. When Athena first touched its seat, the world shifted. A veil lifted, and visions rushed through the threads of time. Mortals would never see those visions in full, but they would feel their echoes in dreams and in choices. The throne was not born to rule, but to remind. It reminds that wisdom guides more strongly than power. It is a beacon for seekers and a mirror for the soul. The owl of Athena sits near, glowing in the dim light. Its feathers hold starlight. Its gaze pierces illusions. It watches both gods and mortals, silent but ever awake. The owl is the messenger of the throne's unseen voice. It carries riddles across the world, soft as night air. Some hear its call in forests, others in the city's hush. Wherever it sounds, reflection follows like a shadow. For centuries, whispers spread of the throne's creation. Some say it was formed when moonlight kissed the first dawn. Others claim it was, shaped by the breath of ancient owls. And still others believe Athena wove it from thought itself. Whatever the truth, it remains eternal and unbroken. No storm has cracked it. No age has dulled its glow. The gods themselves tread carefully in its presence. For even Olympus bows to the clarity it holds. When mortals approach, they sense both awe and peace. Their footsteps soften, their voices falter to whispers. Many come with questions they dare not speak aloud. And though none may sit, the throne answers in silence. A silence deep, rich, and filled with unseen meaning. It teaches that truth cannot be shouted, only discovered. Some leave puzzled, others leave in quiet tears. But all who come depart changed in ways they cannot name. The throne is not just a seat, it is a living story. A story that writes itself in the hearts of listeners. It is not bound to stone, nor chained to Olympus. It moves with Athena, a companion of her spirit. When she journeys, the throne's glow follows unseen. When she rests, the throne hums with the stars. Every whisper of the owl is its promise renewed. Every pause of the wind is its wisdom unfolding. And so, the eternal owl throne of Athena waits. It waits for seekers of light, for dreamers, for wanderers. It waits for those who listen, who question, who wonder. In its quiet glow, Olympus itself seems to breathe. The mountain lives, the sky bends, the ages turn. But the throne remains, eternal, steady, unbroken. It is here, it is now, it is always. And it whispers still, for those who dare to hear. They say every throne has a story, but this one begins in silence. Before temples rose, before marble was carved, it was already waiting. It did not come from hammer, nor from chisel, nor from flame. It was born from the meeting of night and dawn in the heavens. The first rays of morning brushed the last shadows of night. Where they touched, a spark of clarity shimmered into being. That spark stretched into form, shaped by breath unseen. Owls circled above, their wings scattering starlight like dust. From that starlight, threads of silver bound the new creation. The throne rose slowly, as though grown instead of built. Its frame gleamed with a glow not of metal, but of memory. It carried the hush of forests, the stillness of lakes at dusk. It carried the patience of stone and the quickness of thought. The gods watched, astonished by what they beheld. They saw not a symbol of power, but a vessel of wisdom. And so they knew whose throne it must become. For none but Athena could claim a seat woven of thought. Her spirit was not fire nor storm, but clear illumination. Her strength was reason, her gift the art of discernment. The throne answered her presence as if awaiting her touch. It glowed brighter when she came near, softer when she withdrew. She sat upon it, and visions danced before her sight, not of conquest, but of choices and their rippling paths. She saw mortals standing at crossroads, trembling in doubt. She saw futures branching, endless as the stars above. And she understood the throne was no gift of dominion. It was a guide, a mirror, a keeper of unseen truths. The owl appeared then, feathers gleaming like pale moons. It circled the throne once, twice, 3 times in silence. Then it landed at Athena's side, never to leave again. For the throne and the owl were bound in eternal accord. One would shine, the other would speak, and both would teach. Their lessons were never loud, never forced, never harsh. They came as whispers, as quiet riddles, as patient echoes. And those who heard them found their hearts unsettled. For wisdom unsettles before it comforts, and questions before it answers. The throne grew in legend as mortals carried stories abroad. Some said it was crafted from the bones of forgotten stars. Others swore it was woven from the breath of truth itself. Poets dreamed of it. Children spoke of it in sleep. Sailors prayed to it when storms blurred their way. Scholars called to it when words failed their meaning. And Athena listened, her gaze calm, her mind clear. The throne became a beacon, though none could sit upon it. It stood as a promise that wisdom was never lost. Even in the noise of war, its silence endured. Even in the shadow of pride, its light persisted. The gods respected it, but feared its quiet power. For a throne that could not be ruled was beyond control. It bowed to no king, no conqueror, no thunderer. It bowed only to truth, and truth bowed only to time. And so, the birth of the eternal owl throne became myth. A myth not of glory, but of clarity and reflection. Its story passed from Olympus to earth, from earth to dream. still. The throne waited for seekers brave enough to listen, for those who sought not crowns, but questions, for those who sought not riches, but understanding. The owl watched, its gaze unblinking, its wings ready. The throne glowed, soft as dawn, endless as night. And in that glow, the world remembered its beginning. The day Athena first sat upon her throne was calm and bright. Olympus stretched wide under a sky polished by morning light. The gods gathered, curious yet cautious, their voices hushed. They knew this throne was unlike any that had ever been. No fire burned in it, no thunder sang from its frame. It waited quietly, glowing with a patience older than time. Athena approached, her steps steady, her gaze clear. She was not dressed in splendor, but in simple grace. Her shield rested aside, her spear untouched at her feet. For this was not a seat of war, but of wisdom. The owl followed her, wings folded, eyes sharp as midnight. It landed softly on the arm of the throne, waiting. Athena touched the seat, and the air shifted around her. The chamber filled with a light that pulsed like a heartbeat. The throne recognized her, as though it had always known. When she sat, silence fell, deeper than the quiet of night. The gods leaned closer, yet dared not break the stillness. Visions unfurled before Athena, vast as the endless sky. She saw rivers branching, each stream a mortal choice. She saw cities rise and fall, yet their voices lingered. She saw laughter ripple across time, sorrow echo after it. Every choice carried weight, every moment carried meaning. Her heart did not tremble, for clarity steadied her. She understood the throne's gift was not knowledge alone. It was perspective, the vision of paths unseen. The owl blinked once, and riddles stirred in the silence. A single feather drifted down, glowing like silver fire. It touched the marble, and the gods shivered with awe. They saw in Athena not power, but deeper strength. Not command, but understanding that reached beyond words. From that day, the throne became her companion eternal. It was never chained to Olympus, never fixed in one place. It followed her spirit, shining wherever she walked. Mortals who prayed in her temples sometimes felt its glow. They dreamed of her gaze and the owl's patient stare, and they woke with answers they had not known they held. The gods too learned to seek her counsel, not in anger, not in pride, but in quiet respect. For when Athena spoke from the throne, her words endured. They were not commands, but lanterns for shadowed minds. Zeus himself, in storms of doubt, turned to her. Not for thunder, but for clarity he could not find. The throne never thundered, never shouted its truth. It whispered, and in that whisper lay the strength of ages. Athena carried this gift with reverence, never with pride. She knew wisdom is not owned, but shared in patience. Her seat became a beacon for heroes and dreamers alike. They traveled far, not to touch, but simply to listen. Some found silence, some found riddles, some found peace. Yet all carried away a spark they could not forget. Stories spread of the day she first sat, and still they live. Stories of a goddess who listened before she spoke, of an owl who saw beyond darkness and night, of a throne that pulsed with light, eternal and calm. It is said the air still hums where she first rested, as if Olympus itself remembers that quiet moment, the moment when wisdom found its seat among the gods. Not in conquest, not in power, but in luminous silence. And so the eternal owl throne became a promise that clarity will outlast storms and shadows, a promise that truth will endure, even when veiled. And in its light, Athena's gaze will forever remain. Stories soon spread beyond Olympus, carried by winds and waves. mortals heard whispers of the throne that spoke without words. They dreamed of its light, though they had never seen it. Philosophers wondered if such a seat could reveal truth itself. Poets wrote of owls guiding them through forests of thought. Fishermen claimed to hear its silence between the crash of waves. And kings longed for its wisdom more than for its power. So mortals began to climb the mountain with hope in their hearts. Some carried offerings of fruit, honey, or olive branches. Others brought questions that burned heavier than any gift. They asked of the throne things they dared not ask gods. How to rule with justice, how to love with truth, how to choose when every choice carried pain and cost. They stood before the throne, trembling but unbroken. None were allowed to sit, for the seat was eternal. But the glow wrapped around them like a gentle veil. They left not with answers, but with new ways to see. The silence became the answer they had never expected. It showed them that wisdom waits in stillness, not in haste. That clarity rises not from command, but from listening. The owl watched from its perch, head tilted in thought. Sometimes its eyes shone brighter, and mortals felt guided. Other times it closed its wings, and the lesson was patience. Each seeker left with something only they could understand. Some left confused, others left quietly weeping in peace. The throne gave nothing tangible, yet everything essential. It offered no crown, no treasure, no promise of glory. Instead, it gave reflection, the hardest gift to receive. The gods observed, watching mortals grow under its silence. Some feared mortals would rise wiser than the gods themselves. Others admired their courage to seek without demand. Athena herself remained calm, her gaze kind, yet firm. She welcomed seekers not with answers, but with presence. Her voice, when she spoke, was softer than wind in trees. She reminded them wisdom is not granted, but discovered. And the throne was a mirror, not a master. Generations passed, yet seekers still climbed the mountain. Some were remembered as heroes, others forgotten by time. But all carried sparks of the throne back to their lives. Those sparks grew into laws, songs, choices, and dreams. They shaped cities, guided ships, and softened tempers. Even in distant lands, the throne's influence was felt, as if its silence traveled farther than voices ever could. In marketplaces, in classrooms, in hidden gardens, it lingered. A merchant weighing fairness heard its quiet call. A child deciding kindness felt its gentle glow. A ruler choosing mercy remembered the owl's still gaze. The throne became not just Athena's, but the world's. Yet it was never claimed, never owned, never chained. It remained beyond reach, yet close within every heart. Mortals began to say the throne lived inside them, that every pause before a choice was its silent touch, that every dream of an owl was its patient reminder. The eternal owl throne was not a legend alone. It was a companion to humanity's endless search for light. And so, seekers never ceased to walk its path. They came barefoot, weary, broken, or full of pride. And each left lighter, carrying wisdom they could not name. The throne gave freely, yet asked only silence in return. For in silence, mortals heard the truest voice of all. Legends of the throne deepened as centuries passed into shadow. Travelers spoke of nights when stars bent closer to Olympus. They said the throne glowed brighter under moonlight than by day. Owls gathered in silence, their wings tracing circles in the sky. Shepherds on distant hills watched and felt unseen eyes upon them. It was said the throne whispered through dreams of wanderers. Dreams filled with winding paths, symbols, and silver light. Mortals awoke with visions they could never explain. Some found answers to questions they had not yet asked. Others woke trembling, sensing futures they could not escape. The throne's mystery wove itself into stories and fireside songs. Children grew up hearing of owls who spoke in riddles. Priests taught that silence was a form of prayer, and rulers built temples with wide eyes carved in stone. But none dared claim the throne itself, for all knew its vow. It belonged not to kings or conquerors, but to wisdom alone. One tale told of a young woman from a coastal town. Her name was Athena, a seeker of stories and hidden truth. She dreamed for months of an owl perched upon her shoulder. Each night the dream grew clearer, guiding her toward the mountain. So she left her home, carrying only a cloak and a lamp. Her steps were steady, though the path was long and steep. She met others climbing, each with burdens of their own. A farmer sought blessing for his crops. A widow wished to speak once more to her lost beloved. A soldier longed to be freed from endless duty and command. Together they walked, strangers bound by silent yearning. When they reached the mountain's high clearing, night had fallen. The throne glimmered under the stars like water made solid. The owl's eyes gleamed golden, watching them in patient stillness. None spoke, for words felt heavy in that sacred place. Athena stepped closer, her lamp flickering though no wind blew. She felt the silence wrap around her like a second skin. In that silence, her thoughts slowed and her heart steadied. She saw her own reflection in the light of the throne. Not her face, but the questions she carried deep within. Where does wisdom truly dwell? She thought, not daring to speak. The throne glowed softly, as if listening with endless patience. The owl blinked once, and she felt an answer stir within. Not a voice, but a knowing she could not explain. That wisdom was not distant, nor hidden in sacred stone. It lived in the pause before every word and choice. It lived in the courage to see beyond one's own desire. Athena bowed, tears warming her face, though no sorrow touched her. The farmer felt his burden lighten, as if seasons turned within him. The widow felt presence without words, a comfort beyond dreams. The soldier set down his sword and found rest in stillness. They left the clearing changed, though none could name how. As dawn rose, their faces carried peace brighter than sunlight, and the owl returned to its silent watch, unblinking, eternal. The throne gave no answers, yet offered everything they needed, for its gift was not truth written, but truth discovered within. And so Athena returned to her coastal town with quiet strength. She spoke not of visions, but lived her days with gentleness. Her kindness spread wider than her words could ever reach. Her lamp still burned each night, a reminder of her path. Generations remembered her not as a dreamer, but as wise, and they said the owl's gaze had never truly left her. The throne's light had traveled with her, hidden in her soul. And so the legend grew, one seeker at a time. The eternal owl throne was not only a place, but a journey each heart must walk, in silence and in courage. Seasons turned, and the mountain kept its silent vigil unchanged. The throne stood as it always had, beyond time, beyond claim. But mortals never ceased to journey toward its quiet glow. Among them came Calus, a young scribe from a distant valley. He had copied words of sages, yet his heart sought more. Ink stained his hands, but no page could answer his hunger. He longed to see wisdom not written, but living in silence. So he packed parchment, quills, and a small loaf of bread. His village laughed, saying ink cannot hold the throne's light. But Calus pressed on, guided by dreams of an owl's wing. He climbed through forests where branches whispered like voices, through rivers where moonlight scattered like silver upon waves, and through valleys where shepherds sang songs of the unseen. At last, he reached the high clearing as dusk descended. The throne glowed faintly as though breathing with the earth. The owl sat motionless, its gaze deeper than any night. Callus felt his breath slow, his quill trembling in his hand. He wished to write what he saw, yet words fled him, for silence spoke louder than any scripture he had known. He sat at the edge of the clearing, parchment unrolled. Hours passed as stars turned above in patient procession. No vision came, no voice, no radiant revelation. Yet, in the stillness, he began to see differently. The flicker of his lamp mirrored the flicker of thought. The steady throne mirrored the stillness he had resisted. He realized wisdom was not captured by ink alone. It was lived, breathed, and reflected in the pauses of life. So he began to write, not with answers, but with questions. Why do I seek? What do I fear in silence? What truth lies beyond desire for knowing? Each word flowed like a quiet stream, not a raging river. When dawn came, his parchment was filled with gentle wonderings. He bowed before the throne, grateful though unfulfilled. The owl blinked once, as if to seal his journey. Callus descended the mountain with parchment close to his chest. He returned to his valley, not as a man of answers, but as a teacher of questions, a guide to patient seeking. His scrolls spread, read by farmers, by wanderers, by rulers. And though they carried no single truth, they stirred reflection. Villages far and wide began to honor silence at twilight. They lit lamps, sat together, and asked questions without demand. Some called it the hour of the owl, a ritual of stillness. In that hour, they remembered the throne that never spoke. But through silence, it had given them endless voices within. Generations found comfort in Callus's humble parchment. They passed it as treasure, though it held no gold. It taught them that wisdom was not an end, but a path. Not a crown to wear, but a light to carry. Callus himself grew old, yet his eyes never lost wonder. He said the owl visited him in dreams, silent yet near. He would wake smiling, knowing he still walked the path. When he died, his scrolls were placed beneath an olive tree. The tree grew strong, its branches home to countless owls. Travelers said the tree glowed faintly under the moon, as if the throne's light had followed Callus home. And so his story joined the countless threads of legend. The eternal owl throne remained, untouched, unclaimed, eternal. But through each seeker, its silence wove into mortal life. It was not stone, nor seat, nor owl alone. It was the still flame that burned quietly in every soul. Time drifted onward, and the throne's light never dimmed. Yet the world around it shifted with each passing age. Empires rose with stone towers scraping the sky, and empires fell, leaving ruins swallowed by ivy and silence. Still the throne remained, untouched by hands of ambition. Among the seekers came Athena, a young musician of humble birth. His lyre was his constant companion, strings worn by longing. He sang in villages, yet applause never filled his emptiness. For he believed a greater song waited beyond his reach. Dreams of owls stirred his sleep, wings rustling like cords. He followed their call until the mountain loomed before him. His journey was not easy, for storms shadowed his path. But each note he plucked kept his spirit steady. At last, he climbed to the sacred clearing. The throne glowed as if listening to the world itself. The owl tilted its head, eyes bright with endless patience. Athena knelt, resting his lyre across his knees. He played no grand hymn, only a simple melody. The sound rose fragile, yet clear as mountain air. It filled the silence without breaking it. The throne seemed to echo his tune in quiet light. Each note carried not skill, but sincerity. The owl blinked once, as though approving his offering, and Athenion felt the music deepen beyond his control. The melody grew, weaving itself from silence, not from strings. It rose around him like a gentle tide. He realized the throne was not only seen, but heard. That silence itself could become song when welcomed. He played until dawn, his hands trembling yet steady. When the sun rose, the clearing glowed brighter than fire. He bowed, tears shining like dew upon his cheeks. The owl spread its wings once, then folded them again. And Athenion knew he had been given a gift unseen. He descended the mountain, his lyre carrying a new sound. In villages, people wept as his songs reached their hearts, not with sorrow, but with a peace beyond words. His melodies spoke of pauses, stillness, and unseen truths. They called his music the breath of the owl. For each silence within, it carried meaning as deep as notes. Athenion never claimed glory, never sought riches. He played in marketplaces, in temples, in lonely fields. Everywhere, people felt as though the throne was near. Through his music, the eternal silence traveled. It touched sailors at sea, shepherds on hills, children at play. And rulers too sat quietly, softened by the unseen harmony. Generations passed, yet his songs endured, carried on lips of wanderers. Even when his name faded, the melodies lived on. Simple, patient, woven with the wisdom of pauses. They taught listeners that silence is not emptiness, but presence, not absence, but a space where truth can dwell. Legends say when Athenion grew old, he returned once more, climbing the mountain with frail hands, clutching his lyre. He reached the clearing, where the throne still shone. There, he played one final melody, softer than breath. The owl watched, eyes glowing like dawn. When the last note faded, the silence remained eternal. Athenion smiled, for he had learned the throne's secret, that the greatest song is not sung, but lived. His lyre was left leaning beside the throne, and travelers say on quiet nights, its strings still hum, as though the mountain itself remembers his offering. The throne, unchanging, had woven his song into eternity, and his story became one more thread in the endless tapestry. The eternal owl throne gave no applause, yet gave everything, for it revealed that even silence could sing when honored. Ages shifted, and still the mountain cradled its silent secret. The throne remained steady, its glow untouched by time's decay. Yet mortals continued to climb, drawn by longing deeper than words. Among them was Damaris, a healer known for her gentle hands. She carried herbs, oils, and knowledge passed down through generations. Her village called her wise, but she felt hollow within. For though she healed wounds, she could not ease despair. Her dreams were filled with owls circling under a silver moon. They called her toward Olympus, toward the throne of silence. She walked with staff in hand, steady as river stones. Her journey was long, through valleys where sickness lingered. She tended to the weak, even on her path. And those she healed whispered blessings to guide her onward. At last, she stood before the clearing at twilight's edge. The throne shimmered, faintly, bathed in a glow like dusk. The owl's gaze held her as still as carved marble. She knelt, her satchel of herbs resting at her side. A question filled her heart, heavier than all her tools. How may I heal sorrow that no hand can touch? The silence deepened, wrapping her in invisible embrace. Her thoughts slowed, like waves quieting after storm. She felt her own breath echo within the throne's glow. It was then she understood sorrow was not a wound. It was a shadow cast by love unexpressed. To heal it was not to erase, but to listen. She closed her eyes, tears slipping without grief. When she rose, her satchel felt lighter, her heart steadier. The owl blinked once, its wings shifting like whispers of wind. And she knew the mountain had given her no cure. It had given her a way to carry sorrow gently. Damaris descended, her steps firm, her silence radiant. She returned to her village not with answers, but with presence. She listened longer, spoke softer, and let silence heal. Patience found comfort not only in her herbs, but her stillness. She taught others that care is more than remedy. It is the patience to sit with pain until it softens. Villages far and near came to learn from her, not how to mix potions, but how to hold silence. They called her the listener, a healer of spirit as well as flesh. Her way spread like water, quiet yet unyielding. Even rulers sought her wisdom in times of unrest. She would sit with them, saying little, yet leaving peace. Legends grew that the owl's gaze lingered in her eyes, that when she looked at someone, sorrow bowed and eased. Her story wove into songs sung at night by fire. Children grew up hearing of the healer who taught silence. Generations remembered her not for cures, but for presence. When her final days came, she returned to the mountain. She walked slower, her hair silver, her staff worn smooth. The throne awaited, unchanged, ageless in its glow. She sat quietly at its base, resting in stillness. The owl lowered its head, as though honoring her path. And when dawn broke, she was gone, her staff leaning nearby. Travelers later found the staff sprouting leaves like olive branches, a living sign that healing lives beyond hands, beyond years. They said her spirit became part of the throne's silence, that in quiet moments, her voice could still be felt, not as words, but as comfort, like warmth without flame. The eternal owl throne remained, holding her story as its own, and seekers who came after found healing not in answers, but in the still presence that had carried through her life. The throne gave nothing, yet it gave everything. For in silence, sorrow itself learned how to rest. The centuries rolled onward, yet the throne stood unyielding in silence. Its light glowed softly, untouched by storms or the weight of ages. Many came seeking, yet only a few left with quiet wisdom. Among them was Calidora, a scribe from a distant coastal city. Her life was words, ink-stained fingers, and scrolls stacked like towers. She wrote of kings, of battles, of laws carved in stone. But the more she wrote, the more emptiness pressed against her. For words she feared could only echo truth, never hold it. At night she dreamed of owls, their wings brushing parchment skies. They led her gaze to the mountain where silence lived eternal. She set out with scrolls in her pack, inkpot tied close. Her path wound through markets and fields, each step a question. What would she write if she reached the throne of Athena? Would silence itself reveal a word greater than all others? Her climb was long, her feet blistered, her hands still inked. At last, the clearing welcomed her, bathed in a silver glow. The throne gleamed, patient as stone, alive as a heartbeat. The owl sat watchful, its gaze piercing yet tender. Calidora bowed low, her scrolls clutched like shields of meaning. She whispered, "I seek the word that endures beyond all." The silence spread outward, vast as sea without horizon. Her scrolls felt heavier, her inkpot cold against her skin. She realized every word she had written was already fading. Empires crumble, kings vanish, and names sink beneath dust. But the silence before words, that stillness, remained eternal. She unrolled a scroll and dipped her quill, yet paused. The owl blinked, and the throne glowed brighter than moonlight. She set her quill down and wrote nothing at all. A blank scroll fluttered in the night wind, alive with meaning. For it carried silence, the truth beyond language. She stayed until dawn, watching light spill over the horizon. When she descended, she carried empty scrolls, yet a full heart. In her city, scholars mocked her for the blank pages. But when they held them, stillness entered their minds. Some wept without knowing why, others found peace for the first time. The blank scrolls spread slowly, whispered of as silent texts. They became sacred, placed in temples where no voice dared rise. Even kings ordered copies, though there was nothing to copy. People began to sit before them in reverent quiet, and in the silence, they discovered truths too deep for speech. Calidora never claimed wisdom, never defended her blank pages. She simply smiled, knowing the throne had written through her. Years later, as she aged, she returned to the mountain. Her hands shook, her hair streaked with silver threads. The throne awaited, unchanged, cradled by patient owls. She laid her final scroll upon its base, still unmarked. The owl lowered its head, wings stirring like a sigh, and she felt her story dissolve into the silence itself. Travelers found no body, only scrolls scattered with morning dew. Each blank, yet glowing faintly in the dawn light. They carried them down, placing them in libraries and sanctuaries. Over centuries, they were treasured more than any written word, for they taught that silence was the language of eternity. The throne remained, unmarked, untouched, yet filled with endless tales. Each seeker left with nothing and everything. For silence gave no answers, yet revealed truths deeper than words. And so the owl watched, the throne glowed, and silence endured. Seasons turned to centuries, yet the throne stood, luminous and eternal. Its silence grew deeper, though the world below grew louder still. New cities rose, crowded and restless, filled with clamor and ambition. Among them lived Thallo, a craftsman who shaped wonders from stone. He carved fountains, arches, and statues admired across the land. Yet fame left him weary, for his works felt hollow to him. Though admired, they seemed to lack a soul, a breath of truth. At night, he dreamed of an owl perched upon a throne. Its eyes followed him, asking a question he could not answer. So he left his chisels behind and began the long journey. His hands bore calluses, his back bent from years of toil. Still he climbed, step after step, toward the mountain of silence. At last, he reached the sacred clearing beneath the stars. The throne glowed softly, and the owl gazed with calm knowing. Thalos knelt, his hands rough, carrying no tools but himself. He whispered, "How may I shape what truly endures?" The silence enfolded him, vast and patient as the sea. He placed his hands upon the earth, feeling stone beneath, and he realized the throne itself was not carved, but grown. It had not been made. It had always been. His art, he understood, was not to shape, but to reveal. He saw that every stone already carried a hidden story. The throne's silence taught him that creation was listening first. He rose with tears, no tools, no sketches, no designs. Yet his hands tingled, alive with the mountain's stillness. When he returned, his craft changed in ways words could not explain. He no longer forced shapes, but released what was within stone. Statues emerged that seemed to breathe, as though alive in pause. Arches whispered of sky, fountains murmured of rivers long forgotten. People stood in awe, though he never claimed the praise. For he knew the truth. He had carved nothing, only revealed. His workshops became places of silence, where apprentices listened first. Before striking stone, they waited for the voice within it. His legacy spread, not through monuments, but through patience itself. Travelers came to watch his works, not for grandeur, but for peace. For every curve and corner held a stillness that spoke. They called him the silent sculptor, the one who heard stone. Legends say rulers sought his hands for temples and palaces. Yet he often declined, building instead in quiet gardens and villages. For his art was not for power, but for presence. When his final years approached, he walked once more to Olympus. His body was frail, but his spirit carried steady strength. He reached the throne, bowed low, and placed a single stone, not carved, not altered, but chosen for its quiet truth. The owl tilted its head, wings stirring like distant thunder, and Thalos felt his life's work dissolve into silence. Travelers later found the stone resting by the throne. It shone faintly, though no tool had touched its surface. Some said it hummed, others felt only calm when near it. They carried tales of the sculptor who shaped without shaping, of the throne that revealed creation as listening, not forcing. And so his story joined the eternal chorus of seekers. The throne remained unchanged, yet filled with endless voices of silence. Each traveler who reached it left with no possession. Yet each returned with treasures the world could not name. For silence gave no command, no instruction, no praise, and still it offered everything the heart had always sought. The owl watched, unblinking, its gaze the keeper of time. And the throne glowed eternal, beneath stars and endless skies. The mountain remained, its slopes kissed by dawn, its peaks crowned in mist. The throne still glowed softly, patient as eternity itself. Generations had passed, each leaving whispers in its silent keeping. Seekers came, seekers left, some with tears, some with quiet joy. Yet none left unchanged, for silence leaves no soul untouched. The owl remained, still and watchful, its gaze older than time. It saw empires rise and fall like waves upon sand. It watched songs bloom and fade, yet echoes lingered forever. The throne did not choose kings, nor bend to crowns. It spoke not to the loud, but to the listening. And in this way, its wisdom grew beyond memory. Legends traveled, told by firesides, carried by wandering voices. Children dreamed of owls guiding them through silver skies. Elders spoke of the throne as though it lived within them. And perhaps it did, for silence travels farther than stone. Some said the throne belonged only to Athena, eternal goddess. Others said it belonged to no one and to all. But in truth, the throne asked no claim, gave no possession. It remained simply as it was, unchanging, eternal, waiting. Travelers who climbed left offerings, stones, scrolls, songs, or breath alone. Yet the throne asked for nothing, and all gifts returned. For the gift it gave was not to be held. It was the quiet knowing that nothing was ever lost. Through silence, love remained. Sorrow softened. Truth endured. The owl's eyes carried every story, though it spoke no word. And those who returned carried silence within like hidden fire. Villages found peace, kingdoms found humility, wanderers found belonging. Each life brushed by the throne became a thread of eternity. And the tapestry grew, unseen yet strong, binding all who sought. The throne did not end stories, it wove them together. From the musician's song, to the healer's stillness, to the scribe's silence. From the sculptor's patience, to countless unnamed pilgrims unknown. all became part of the great silence, the endless hymn. And so the legend outlived every empire, every age. The eternal owl throne was not power, but presence. Not a prize, but a reminder of what endures. For silence is not emptiness, but the breath between worlds. It is the pause where truth waits to be seen. It is the space where love speaks without words. It is the throne upon which wisdom forever rests. And those who seek it need not climb mountains. For the silence of the throne waits within every heart. It waits in still mornings, in pauses between laughter. It waits in the hush of dusk, in the breath before song. It waits in the gaze of another, where no word is needed. The owl remains as guide, wings folded, eyes endless. Its call is not a cry, but a presence felt. And in its gaze, mortals remember what gods have always known. That eternity is not length, but depth. That silence is not absence, but presence. That the throne is not distant, but within. So the mountain remains, shrouded in mist, crowned by stars. The owl keeps watch, unblinking, ageless, eternal. And the throne glows softly, waiting for seekers yet to come. Its silence will welcome them, as it welcomed all before. And when they leave, the silence will leave with them, carried in their steps, their songs, their stories, their hearts. The eternal owl throne will never fade, for it is not stone, it is silence itself, unchanging, eternal, and alive.